You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. All right, folks, the Black Futures Labs Black Census Project surveyed more than 30,000 black folks, including transgender and cisgender women and men, gender non-conforming and non-binary people, about their experiences and political and social views. Joining us right now is civil rights activist Alicia Garza, principal at the Black Futures Lab. So exactly, Alicia, first of all, glad to have you back. So what does this survey show?
Well, one of the reasons that we took the survey in this way is because we really were concerned with the problem of what it's going to take to make Black communities powerful in politics. And we took the data from the Black Census and we looked at it from a number of different lenses. And this lens is looking at the data through the lens of gender and how it is that people's experiences as transgender, gender nonconforming, or cisgender people impact their political perspectives and activities, but also impact the vision that they have for the future. And what we found was a couple of things that I think are very interesting. We talk a lot about the role that Black women are playing in politics, and we all know that it's incredible. But what we don't talk so much about is the role that Black cisgender men and Black transgender people are also playing in politics. What we found was that, of course, there are very high levels of participation amongst Black women in voting and other kinds of electoral activity, but there's also almost equal, a little bit less than equal participation by Black cisgender men, and there is political engagement that is happening with Black transgender people, but they're not actually participating electorally in the same way. Why this matters is because it gives us some insight into what it would mean, right? What would be the implications if Black transgender people, for example, who are already incredibly active, whether it means that they're joining organizations, they're participating in protests around having their rights being rolled back or having additional restrictions being placed on their dignity and human rights. What would it mean if we actually invested in the electoral capacities of Black transgender communities, who actually are incredibly under siege right now? Would that change election patterns, right? In places around the country where, of course, we are concerned about the impact of Black turnout, right, on the outcomes of elections. We also found that the issues that folks care about are actually relatively similar. However, one of the things that is challenging and concerning is that when we look at each of these groups, Black cisgender women, Black cisgender men, Black transgender people, and Black gender nonconforming or non-binary people, what we found is that folk are much less likely to identify problems that are impacting other communities as their own problems. So let me just give an example. In our census, what we found was that Black transgender people are more likely, right, to say that violence against themselves, violence by the police, right, is an incredible issue. But when we talk to Black cisgender people about whether they think that violence against Black transgender people is a major problem that's impacting Black communities, Black cisgender people are less likely to say that violence against trans people is an issue that's impacting Black communities. Well, this matters, of course, because we know that Black communities as a whole are incredibly impacted by violence, whether that be violence at the hands of the police or other types of violence that happens in the home, sexual violence as well. And so what are the implications of not seeing violence against other Black people as a major issue that is impacting you? The implications, of course, is that we're less powerful, right? If we were able to come together and make our concerns each other's, that would give us more of a foundation to actually have an impact. We'd be building broader and more stronger coalitions, and we would also be building more nuanced agendas that essentially people would not be able to wiggle out of because we'd be united in different fashions across different relationships. So for us, one of the things that we're arguing in the Black Census Project and in this report, Beyond Kings and Queens, is that there is material interest for various segments of the Black community to come together to be able to win on the issues that we care about.
And so what impact do you believe this is going to have when it comes to policies being laid out by these various Democratic candidates?
Well,
because first of all, we know Republicans ain't talking to Black people.
Actually, Republicans are talking to Black people, and this is a concern that we have here, is that the space that we leave open by not building these kinds of alliances, by not building these kinds of networks that can help us win, our opposition is actually moving into that space and taking advantage of what we're leaving on the table. So when we see things like Blacks for Trump, when we hear things, right, about, how folks should leave the Democratic Party and, either vote for Trump or not vote at all, these are messages that are getting into spaces that we're leaving wide open. And so this report is really looking specifically at that. I can say from our perspective, from the Black Futures Lab, what we are working on is making sure that nobody in Black communities gets left behind. And our hypothesis is that the more that we're able to come together, the more we're able to leverage our power. We're getting ready to launch a program that's called Black to the Ballot, where we are expanding the electorate, the Black electorate, in 5 states across the country: California, Louisiana, Georgia, Florida, and Alabama. And we are committed to not only registering 10,000 new Black voters in those 5 states, but we're also looking very carefully at the constituencies of Black people that we know are not yet politically engaged, but have everything to gain from being politically engaged. And then coupling that, of course, with a Black agenda that is helping folks to understand that it's not just about casting your vote, it's about casting your vote in pursuit, right, of an agenda that is going to impact our lives in positive ways. So I think the impact that this can and should have on the 2020 election is that candidates that want to make sure that communities are turning out and voting, right? That's the only way that we're going to be able to defeat Donald Trump and the tide of Trumpism that has swept this country. If turnout is the major concern for the 2020 election, then every single candidate should be paying attention to how to make sure to get Black people to turn out from every corner of our community. And that's what our report is arguing.
All right, Alicia Garza, we certainly appreciate it. Thanks a bunch. Where can people look at the Black Census Project?
Thanks, Roland.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Mark Unfiltered video in just one moment. All right, the folks at marijuanastock.org have already reached more than half of their funding goal for the hemp CBD investment. That's right. If you want to take advantage of this great opportunity, you need to do it now because it won't last much longer. If you don't know, I'm talking about the hemp plant, the good cousin to marijuana with a much higher concentration of CBD. That means hemp gives you all the medical benefits of marijuana without getting you high. Also, if you don't know, hemp farming is now legal in the United States, creating one of the largest commodities worldwide. It's just an opportunity for you to invest in a burgeoning economy, and that's where the folks at 420 Real Estate come in. Their business model is simple. They buy land that supports hemp CBD grow operations and lease it to licensed, high-paying tenants. That's right, they are hemp CBD landlords, and you can get in on the action. As hemp continues to change the economic landscape, 420 Real Estate is allowing you to chase the American dream. What you can do is go to, again, their website, marijuanastock.org, to participate in this crowdfunding campaign. The minimum amount is $200. You can invest up to $10,000. Of course, the fund is going to be closing soon, so to invest, go to marijuanastock.org. That's marijuanastock.org. Get the game and get in the game now. Now back to your Roland Martin Unfiltered video.